Grace and peace, you guys. April Chapman here with the Standard of Truth podcast. I want to talk about a new development with the I Promise School in Akron, Ohio. For those of you who don't know, the I Promise School is a school that was started in 2018 by the Lebron James Family Foundation. Now, as you guys know, LeBron is black, right? Like he's a celebrity, and he is considered a role model for many people. To give some context to the story, I want to go ahead and I want to read something to you regarding the school's mission and their approach. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and actually present the problem that the school has been experiencing as reported by multiple news outlets. So, here we are looking at the Gateway Pundit. The headline reads, "Not one 8th grade student at the LeBron James Akron School has passed a state math test in 3 years." LeBron James's I Promise School in Akron, Ohio is facing major backlash from the Akron Public School Board members after it was reported that the school hasn't had one student from its 8th grade class pass a state math test in over 3 years. Akron Public School Board member Valerie McKittrick was shocked by the new revelation and stated, "Not one in 3 years," after she was presented with data that showed not one single student in the school's fall 8th grade class could pass an Ohio State math proficiency test. Keith Clifford, who serves as Akron's district director of school improvement, went on record saying the new finding is discouraging. Despite receiving massive funding from the James Foundation, along with local, state, and federal funding, the I Promise School's Black students and those with disabilities are now testing in the bottom 5% of the state. The low test scores will now cause the Ohio Department of Education to intervene at the school in a last-minute attempt to reverse the downtrend in test scores. So, I wanted to read that to you just to give you an idea of the information that's coming down regarding this school. Once I read that, I was like, okay, there's got to be something that we're missing. April, let me just do a little bit of research to see if I could kind of either diagnose or figure out what's going on here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to read to you something regarding the school's mission and their approach. It reads, "The I Promise School is more than a school. It is a home. It is a place where students are loved and families are supported. With an intentional focus on social emotional learning and a strategic approach to its trauma-informed curriculum, the Promise School addresses the unique needs of its students to meet them where they are. From the staff to the families and our foundation, we are all on this journey together." Now, according to recent reports, academically, as I've read, the school is just not doing well. The school is facing major backlash from the Akron Public School Board members after it was reported that the school hasn't had one student from its 8th grade class pass a state math test in over 3 years. Now, despite receiving massive funding from several resources, including LeBron James has its own foundation, it's getting money from local, state, federal funding. It has tons of corporate sponsors. This school, quote, "The Black students and those with disabilities are now testing in the bottom 5% in the state. Okay, so now the low test scores are causing the Ohio Department of Education. They want to intervene. Now, I read that little blurb from the school's website, and I want you to pay close attention, right? I want you to listen to something that if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss. Now, in addition to that, what I already read, I want to read you something else regarding the I Promise School. It says, believing that education starts at home, the I Promise School places an intentional focus on family engagement and dedicates extensive resources to support its families, its students' entire families. IPS has an entire wing dedicated to a family resource center that provides resources and amenities for every family, including an individualized I Promise family care plan that helps them navigate daily challenges and facilitate long-term planning. IPS also incorporates resources from its community partners, local businesses, and agencies to support our families with wide ranging services and basic essentials to create a one stop shop for all families. Now, when I read that, a few buzzword phrases stuck out to me. In the previous statement that I read directly from the school, both of those statements that I read were from the school, but when I read social emotional learning and when I hear the term trauma informed curriculum, I don't know if you guys are putting two and two together, but that is code word for critical race theory, or probably like an ancestor of CRT, kind of like in former years, the multiculturalism, right? Listen, you guys, this whole worldview, this ideology, it's completely bankrupt. It is pseudoscience that's based on a form of racism, or what I like to call the soft bigotry of low expectation. With this ideology comes the idea that, Malik can't learn and be disciplined the same way that Tommy can because, he's a black boy. And since, black boys who grow up in certain environments, they have this aversion to authority. So we have to discipline him differently. And thus it impacts the way that Malik learns. Or you might hear, well, Malik is poor. And so, because Malik is poor and he's black, we have to tailor and structure the curriculum so that it speaks to him in a way that he can relate to it. Listen, I reject trauma-informed curriculum, and as we can see, this method does not work. You know what else doesn't work? Throwing money or celebrity status at a situation doesn't work either. Listen, academics having high academic standards should not focus on these existential realities, such as this melanin, or what side of the town you grew up on, or is your mama poor, your daddy black, your mama black, so you just black and poor, and now you can't learn. Poor black kids, they don't need teachers that look like them or that can relate to them to help them learn. For one, kids need parents, plural, right? Active and present parents. But even in the absence of parents, plural, kids need to have a foundational understanding of why they need to learn, right? And they need to be challenged through something that seems to be like kryptonite these days, and that is accountability. They need accountability. Giving them everything does not help them learn. So, in my opinion, I believe that we have wholeheartedly misdiagnosed this issue. Money has never been the issue. It is not that this school has not been fully funded. They have been getting money from multiple places. They've been getting money from LeBron, the foundation that started the school, the Lebron James Foundation. They've been getting money from the state. They've been getting money from the local school board. They've been getting corporate dollars. Everyone has been throwing money at this whole concept of this different type of institutional learning to help these kids succeed. And now we see that the current 8th grade class, which has been in the school since the 3rd grade, has not been able to be proficient and pass a state math test since the 3rd grade. So to say that we need the same amount of money as other schools, it never takes into the account that the desire to want to do better has to come from the students and the family. This is a classic example of we want you to do better more than you actually want to do better yourselves. Now I'm pretty sure that this school comes with the same bankrupt Marxist ideology that's rooted in pseudoscience as critical race theory does. How do we know this? When you look at the language on the website, when it uses language such as a trauma-informed curriculum. Last time I checked, math, science, literature, none of that is rooted in trauma-informed curriculum. It just is or it isn't. And how do we know that this curriculum is probably just rooted in Marxist ideology and victimhood? Well, let's look at the founder of the foundation, right? Now, this is not to be offensive, all right, but sometimes you kind of got to call a spade a spade. LeBron James doesn't strike me as a scholar. He just doesn't. Like, when I think of LeBron James starting a school, I am not thinking of high academic excellence, right? And then when you listen to him, as privileged as he is, LeBron James is always encouraging others to just run in the victim Olympics. Never mind that his talent, his skill set, his work ethic managed to uplift him out of poverty. But instead, he is constantly crying about racism. He's constantly crying about systematic oppression. And yet, he has failed to realize that telling these kids that they are victims does not produce positive outcomes. Here is the truth. Kids need structure, right? Kids need clear standards, clear requirements, and most of all, children need intact nuclear families. Schools do not need to provide safe spaces where these kids can let off their steam, because instead of giving them the discipline and the structure and the academic vigor that they need, what we're doing is we're pandering to them, we're coddling them, and telling them that they need some sort of trauma-informed curriculum because they're unable to learn like everyone else has learned through the annals of time. Another issue that I see with this school is that it's literally trying to be a social institution and create social programs as opposed to saying, you know what, we are an institution of academic excellence. And if you are a parent and you want your child to go here, your child is going to be academically challenged and they're going to be academically strengthened. But here it is about the academic, right? What we need to help these people understand is that instead of engaging the family, let me say it like this. The problem that I see with this school is that instead of engaging the family to be responsible for their own education, the school has tried to take the place of the family and attempt to inject a social economic plan of self-improvement void of personal responsibility and academic achievement. I came to this conclusion just by spending a little bit of time on their website. When I went to the website, I could not tell if this was a school or the Department of Social Services. Right? Like, shouldn't there be a difference? I should be able to go to a school's website and learn about the academic profile of what the students are going to be learning, how they're going to be equipped to compete in a global economy. But instead, I saw a lot of socialism, free, kumbaya, happy ever after. That's what I saw. This school literally provides every human comfort possible, and the kids still didn't learn. So the question is, well, why is that? Is anyone asking that question? This school literally provides you with free tuition, free uniforms, a free bicycle and a helmet, free breakfast, free lunch, free snacks. You literally get a whole list of free. And I'm not saying that there are not going to be times and situations where free is useful. What I am saying is that it has this principle of I can just throw money and give you things without having the proper standards and requirements and moral foundation that undergirds what helps a child to be able to learn, right? So the school got a black principal, right? So we can't blame white supremacy here. And according to the website, LeBron is the vice principal. Now, I'm sure he is not active in the day-to-day activities of the school. But we can clearly see that throwing money and celebrity and social influence does not solve this problem. Let's look at it like this. This school has in its core mission and values a trauma-informed curriculum. Let me ask you this. What is the trauma that today's 9-year-old is experiencing? That Booker T. Washington or Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman would have to stop and pause and be like, you know what? Those kids, they really struggling through that. They need a trauma informed curriculum. Did you know that Booker T. Washington was emancipated from slavery at the age of 9? All this man knew was slavery. He was born a slave, emancipated at the age of 9. And life got even more harder for him when he became free, right? He had to work in a dark coal mine, dark and damp, at the age of 11 years old, worried literally for his life because, one, you can't you can't even see your own hand in front of your face in a dark, damp coal mine. You don't know if a stick of dynamite is about to blow you up. So he's constantly living in a fight or flight, constantly fearing for his life, not knowing where his next meal is going to come from. Can you imagine not knowing if you're about to be blown up, or sometimes he would lose his way in the mine, and the day would continue, and it would get darker and darker, and nobody cared. Nobody cared to help him. Nobody felt sorry for him. This man had wooden shoes on his feet that did not conform to the shape of his foot. And he managed to make his way from West Virginia all the way to Virginia to seek an education with no promise that he'd be afforded one when he got there. So are we teaching our children that to be poor prevents you from learning? And so we've got to tailor the curriculum to your trauma. So now is the argument that only people that can learn, they come from money? This is fundamentally a worldview problem. This is the problem when your priorities are misguided and your perspective is skewed. It's okay, or let me ask, is it okay to have a different set of expectations in terms of behavior and ability because you are Black and because you come from a troubled home? Like, when there was an expectation for us to do, people did. Okay? I was earlier on the phone talking to a girlfriend of mine as I was preparing for this video. Because I wanted to see, April, are you having blind spots on this issue? So I called two friends. I called the former teacher and I called a fellow girlfriend of mine who has had educators in her family. And, she's been really kind of more involved with education because her spouse is a teacher. And I asked her thoughts on this. And she said, you know what? She said, you need to go and watch this series on Amazon Prime called The World's Most Dangerous Ways to School. And she said that it's a series where children who are walking through the desert have to travel through sub-zero temperatures just to get to school. And if they're late, they get in trouble. And she told me one story of this one child who had to travel not 2 miles on a bicycle provided by the school, but on foot for miles. The parents took their entire savings to pay for the tuition. Only when he gets to the river, the boy is so gripped with fear and terrified to cross the river that he's got to turn back around, and he never even made it to the school. These are children who speak other languages as their native tongue and are learning English. But our kids over here who speak English can't even count. American children have crossed not near a mountain. They got sneakers on their feet, a cell phone in their hand, and a PlayStation at the house. And we have entire families in other parts of the world where the whole family is sharing one bowl of rice in one room on a dirt floor, and you want to sell me on trauma-informed learning? The problem here is that we live in a world of entitlement here in this country. If someone is covering and providing everything for you, why would you try to compete? We cannot pander to these kids. These kids need structure and discipline and an expectation of you will do well. Because the teachers that care about me the most, they didn't look like me. I didn't need to see a black teacher, a black principal, a black school superintendent for me to dare to dream to make something of myself. You don't need something different and special because you're black or you're poor or you're from the hood. We are to make the best with what we have, especially in light of all of the opportunities that are given to you in this country. Another example, we know that money is not the problem. Money nor resources are the problem. Right here in this state, if you look at all the counties, the Title I counties, not the Title I schools, an entire county, these are counties that give you free internet on the bus, free Wi-Fi if you don't have internet at home. Everybody gets free lunch, so you don't have to be worried about being singled out because you're on a free lunch program. Yet the entire county academically is trash. These are counties of Title I schools where these they call them, I guess they call them the breakout teachers, where these are the teachers that are paid $50 an hour just to handle the problem kids. And they've got to do this trauma-based or trauma-informed curriculum where these kids are told that they're victims and that it's somebody else's fault. On top of the fact that the teachers can't teach because the behavior of the children are so atrocious, and then the hands of the teachers are tied. You can't suspend them. You can't physically restrain them. You literally can't do anything, especially teach them. So this tells me the problem starts at home. The parents are unable to restrain their own kids. If you just look at the landscape of the culture today, where either the parents don't care or you got the mamas, right, who can't cooperate and stay together with the baby daddy. The mama, she's too busy out here trying to be young, and the kids are too busy out here trying to be old. And so the attention is not focused on the children and where it needs to be. And so now, because of the breakdown of the family, you've got fatherlessness. We've placed fatherlessness as if it is optional without recognizing that these children, I know y'all gonna get on me because I be talking about the single mamas all the time in these broken homes. But if you look at the trajectory of the black family and the brokenness within the black family, and then you look at our outcomes, who raised these kids? Who raised them? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. We've placed value on on money instead of hierarchical order and family structure. What do I mean? Right now, we have women out earning men. And on some level, and at some point in this country, that probably was admirable, right? But what comes with that? What did we lose and what did we gain? I'll tell you what we gained. If you have women that are actively competing in the marketplace, and now they are out earning the man, when you get home, that same woman, if the expectation is for her to submit to a biblical order where the man is the head of the household, regardless of how much money he's bringing in, if that's the family dynamic, is there any wonder why women now have more authority? It's because she makes more money. So it's basically whoever controls the purse is now controlling the family. So when feminists tells you, we want power and now we're out earning you, what are you going to tell? You're going to tell her that she can't now? We wonder why when you see situations like the Keke Palmer situation, right? Now, they're not even a bona fide family, right? She was a baby mama, he was a baby daddy. Nobody was married. But she's the breadwinner. She's out earning him. And the one time he tried to put his foot down to be like, hey, listen, I don't really think it's appropriate for you to be out acting like this, like you're somebody's mom. The world tells him that he's the problem. And then it applauds her like, yes, sis, you do you, because that Negro ain't bringing no bread to the table anyway. So he doesn't have the right to try to exercise some sort of authority over you as the mother of his child. Now, quite frankly, I agree because that's not your wife. But let's say they were married. Let's just say they were married and Keke's husband had a problem with her behavior in light of the fact that she's his wife and the mother of his child. Do you think the outcome would be any different? No. This morally debased culture that we live in would still have that same sort of toxic femininity energy and would basically tell him that he needs to be quiet because he's not contributing to the same level that she is. Everything is just flipped upside down and backwards. And then we wonder why when you throw money, even at a school with one of the top earning athletes in the world who happens to look like most of these kids, how he can't even produce better outcomes. It's because it's worldview. We cannot continue to sell victimhood to these kids and then be shocked and surprised when they're like, well, I'm just a victim. I couldn't learn. I mean, I know you gave me a bike and a helmet. You fed me and the school provided resources for me and my mama and everybody else in the family. Academics were not the focus because we were too busy focused on these existential realities, and the victim Olympics race was being run super hard that they didn't make enough time to tell these kids that they can learn, they will learn, and that they must learn. That's what happened here. Money was never the problem. Our misguided and misdirected worldview is the problem. So I know this video was long and it really wasn't what y'all were expecting. But yes, I did want to highlight the fact that yes, LeBron's school is a failure. But it's not a failure because they didn't have the money. The school is a failure because what I believe is at the core, undergirding this school was a false ideology. The ideology of victimhood and trauma-informed curriculum versus you got to learn this math. You've got to learn this science. You need to learn how to compete because nobody's coming to save you. But they literally handed these children everything they could have needed in terms of tools and resources. But the kids, now that they're in the 8th grade, they can't even pass a state minimum basic math test. That is a problem. We're doing education wrong. And listen, say what you want. You may have, your political individuals that you're supporting. And on some levels, I am torn, but on others, I am not. This is why I will probably be supporting Vivek Ramaswamy. Because he's the only one that was like, you know what, this Department of Education, it needs to be abolished. We got to get this wokeism, victimhood Olympics mentality out of our schools and get back to academics. If children are not challenged academically, and if the expectation is, oh no, there's nothing wrong with you. Yes, you were poor. Yes, you may not have money. Yes, you may be from the hood, but you can learn. The question is, do you want to learn, or did someone tell you that you can't learn because it's somebody else's fault? We're now reaping the benefits of the ancestors of critical race theory being pushed on our children, and this is what we get. So, you guys, I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Do you think that I'm off base when I talk about the undergirding, or the what do you call it? The subliminal language that was in basically the school's mission? Do you think the fact that the socialistic path that these kids were on, where everything was given to them free, but yet the school still failed? What do you think was the cause? You're free to disagree with me. That's okay. But when I perused that school's website, it didn't scream to me that the website did not strike me as a school that cared about academic success. They are more focused on being a replacement for the family versus putting the responsibility on the children and the families and saying, we're here to support you. Because broken families create broken societies. That's just a fact. And if you don't focus on rebuilding the family, but rather you focus on trying to create substitutes for the family, such as what this school was doing, you're going to come up short. So let me know what you think. Grace and peace to you.